What's up, Home Slices? It's Kiara with Home Slice Adulting, coming to you for my review of the latest episode of Real Housewives of Atlanta. This is season 10, episode 6 or 7. It'll be titled appropriately. I can't remember exactly. But I'm coming to you guys in a different location and a different type of organization for the video. Typically what I do is I watch the video and I take notes while I'm watching and then come to you with my thoughts. But instead this time I'm going to be watching the show and actually while I'm watching the show, pausing it to give you guys my honest and candid and more immediate thoughts. Kind of the way that Alexander Rogers does his. I just want to try it out and see how it works. So yeah, let's get to it. All right, first things first. Sheree trying to pick out doors for her spa. There's nothing that I could care less about. All right, so while Portia and Sheree are looking and shopping for home decor or whatever, they have a little discussion about Sheree and her new man Tyrone, that there were rumors going around on the blogs that Sheree was actually married to him. And Sheree said that's not true, but once he gets out, if he is who he says he is, she will marry him. Now, what we know about him is that he is in jail for scamming people out of their money. So if he is a con artist, you'll marry him? I don't understand. See, people in jail need love. They need people to hold them accountable, and you know, the relationships to you know, once they get out of jail so that they're less likely to go back. But there's something about a white collar criminal that just, it comes off as this person is dishonest, and chances are they will go right back to scamming people. But whatever, you know, if the person that you love, because I know people who have married people who have been in jail for drugs or whatever, and they have had, you know, happy lives, and the person has never gone back to jail. But there's something fishy about Tyrone, and it's even fishier that Sheree loves him while he's in jail. Something is off about that. Something's real weird. But anyways, Kenya, Candy, and Cynthia are at Lake Bailey having a conversation basically about the same thing. And Cynthia was honest with Kenya about being upset and not meeting Mark, and Kenya was just making up excuses. Well, I had to get a restraining order on Matt, her ex-boyfriend, so that's put a hamper on the different places that we can go. I'm always going to New York. I mean, the more she talks about this relationship, I do believe that she is technically married. I do believe that she is married to the person she says that she's married to, but the more she talks about the relationship, the less it seems like the relationship is going to last. He seems to be kind of controlling. But anyways, yeah, they also talk about Sheree dating somebody in jail, and you're a high profile reality star. Like, why? Real quick, let's talk about Portia and these matchmakers. I think it's an interesting idea. I have never been rich enough to enlist the help of a matchmaker, but I thought it was very interesting that the matchmakers asked to see the house. I felt like that was weird. Like, do they do that typically? To me, it sounded like she was just trying to be nosy. But then when they learned some interesting stuff when Portia took them to the 2 children's bedrooms, and she was using them as storage. I thought that was real I thought that was real weird, that she needs to have like a designated space for storage instead of just putting stuff in the rooms. But anyway, the lady was like, you know, having all of this kid stuff is gonna make their wiener go down. That was funny. I haven't even finished the scene, but I'm gonna go ahead and chime in on this little Peter and Cynthia still working together. Number one, I think it's a terrible idea, but Cynthia did say that it is unfinished business, so I kind of get it. So I'm not gonna be a little too hard on them for still working together. I find that they're kind of awkward together, and I do not like that Peter, who is no longer a real house husband of Atlanta, having his own confessional. Like, why are you still here? Like, you don't even go here. Like, come on, Peter. Oh, God, okay. And so, you know, I feel like nobody really said this last season when Cynthia and Peter were going through their whole separation and divorce thing. But money was definitely a factor. Like, I remember on the reunion when, what's his name? Andy asked Cynthia if one of the reasons that they got divorced was over money, and she skated right over that. Now, if money, and we all know that throughout their years on the show, money has been a big part of the contention in their relationship, whether it came down to Peter spending money without telling Cynthia, like when he purchased a new car without telling her, or when he purchased a whole building. He purchased another building that was supposed to be a coffee shop that we ain't never heard nothing about ever again. He purchased a building that that Cynthia's agency was in, and then there were some issues with the bar one foreclosing or whatever. And it's like, come on, I mean, I feel like it's a bad idea. And it's great that Peter is doing well in Charlotte, but wasn't he doing well in Atlanta with bar one at one time? You know, he has a few more years to get in before we can say we trust him to be 25% owners with them. So I feel like Cynthia is kind of making a mistake. So Cynthia and Peter briefly talk about Cynthia finding a new relationship, and they kind of, you know, tiptoed around it a little bit. I'm happy to see Cynthia moving on, because I don't know, like, as much as I don't ever want to wish for the demise of somebody's marriage, I never felt like Cynthia and Peter were good together. And what's interesting is, again, last season during the time that they were separated and during the time of the reunion, it seems like, and Cynthia accepted the blame for the relationship not working out because she felt like she wasn't wife material. And I'm under the impression that Peter is not husband material. I really feel like it's Peter's fault. But either way, they seem to have a friendly enough relationship to the point to where they can work together, which again, you know, situations like these start out seeming like they're okay, but I don't think it's going to be okay. I don't think that it's really going to work out. I mean, I wish that the business is successful for both Peter and for Cynthia, but I mean, come on. Something is definitely not right about y'all working together. All right, so now for the portion of the mommyhood section of Real Housewives of Atlanta today, we'll talk about Kandi first. Kandi has invited over a swim instructor to teach baby Ace how to swim. And I guess she's just really trying to make sure that Ace is ahead of a learning curve, because she potty trained him super early. He's learning to swim super early, but babies already have like a propensity for knowing how to swim, particularly when they're like fresh out of the womb. But anyway, swimming is a life skill that a lot more brown people need to learn. But anyways, y'all, Kandi is one of my favorite people on the show, but I'm low-key tired of her talking about how bad she feels about not being a traditional mom. You have created an empire for your family to live off of, and Ace is so young right now that he's not really going to remember your absence or presence in his life. And I don't have children, so I don't know what it's like to feel like you're not doing the best that you could be doing as a parent or whatever, and I probably won't experience that for a number of years. But I am getting annoyed by her saying that when we all know that Kandi is just doing the best that she can. So next, we'll talk about Sheree. We see that Kaylee has a handful of her friends over, most of whom are of the Caucasian persuasion, and Sheree said that Kaylee is going to Howard, which is interesting because it's a historically black college, and Kaylee has always been the token black girl in her group of friends. But I find that a little bit surprising too, but it was cool to see, you know, her friends wishing her well and going on to college. And now we get this uncomfortable but necessary conversation that Sheree has been promising to have with her kids for weeks upon weeks now. And what I find very interesting is that the last time, a few episodes ago, when we saw how Sheree was practicing with her friends to have this talk with her children, versus now, has been like a lot of growth and a lot more comfortable for her to share her thoughts and feelings with her children. And so she you know, had a conversation with her kids, because while she's in Washington, D.C. dropping off Kaylee at college, she is also going to speak with the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, because they want her to be a spokesperson. And so all of her kids, you know, when you have serious talks with your children, they kind of look away, they look down. It's something that they don't really want to talk about regarding their feelings or whatever. But the consensus was that everybody was shocked. Nobody really knew. Kaylee was the only person who said that she had actually spoken to her father, and that when he tried to explain it, she just drove away. And it was interesting that her oldest daughter, whose name I can't think of right now, was like, you know, you're Superwoman to us. If Sheree is Superwoman, then, you know, their standards are pretty low. But all jokes aside, you know, when it's your mom, you see your mom in a Superwoman kind of light. So I definitely get it. But I'm just making a joke about Sheree being probably the least accomplished person on the show. But either way it goes, it was sweet to see Sheree's growth. And you know what? Sheree has gotten on my nerves ever since she's been back on the show. Well, Sheree's gotten on my nerves ever since she's been on the show, period. But now, this season, she's actually growing on me a little bit. Alright, y'all, I just got through saying that Kandi needs to stop feeling so bad about not being there for her kids. But then Riley turns around and makes Kandi feel worse about not being around. And it's like, with kids like Riley, of course you're gonna feel bad. Like, come on, Riley, give your mama a break, okay? You don't want for anything. But that's the thing, like, children who are Riley's age, who have a recollection of, you know, their parents being in their lives, value time and quality time spent with their parents more so than they value money. So Riley, stop making your mama feel bad, okay? Kandi could use, you know, a little pulling back from some of her obligations, but tours don't last forever. So now we're at the double date on the boat, and the only couple that could make it besides Cynthia and Will were Kandi and Todd. Now, is this, I don't know if Will wanted this boat thing to just be the two of them, or if he was okay with her bringing another couple along, but I think this is her way of making sure that Will doesn't try anything. I don't think she wants to move too fast. But anyways, especially after the way she was pining after Uncle Ben earlier on this episode. But now we start to see that Kandi has some Mama Joyce in her and has done some background investigation on Will, and apparently he has been on more than one episode of a dating show. So we'll see how that goes. There's also a little bit of uncomfortability because of how close Peter and Todd are, and I found it very mature of Peter to say that if he's a good person, that, you know, Todd should feel okay embracing him. And I was like, that's a really good thing, particularly for Peter, who I find to be quite annoying. Let me tell you something. All right, Todd, you know what I found? Like I said, Kandi is one of my favorite Real Housewives. Todd, however, annoys me to pieces sometimes. I feel like Kandi and Todd are a great couple. I feel like their relationship is gonna last for a long time. However, something about Todd's personality is just like I liked Todd back in the day when he was taking all the heat from Candy's family or whatever back in season 6. But let me tell you something, guys. I find it very odd that somebody who went through the ringer is allowing another dude to go through the ringer with Kandi. I find like that's really weird that Kandi feels like it's okay to say that it's Will's turn to be put through the ringer the same way that Todd was put through the ringer. I find that that's very weird, very odd, especially considering the fact that Kandi and Cynthia are just friends and not like blood or family or anything like that. I just find it very weird. And I did not like that Todd was all, he said that he thought that Will was square. And it's like, Todd is like the squarest dude I know. Like, like, come on. Like, really, Todd? I just can't. Whatever. Yo, Cynthia is so slow. Come on, Cynthia. Okay, that had me cracking up a little bit with Candy and Cynthia having girl talk while the guys were at the back of the boat being awkward. I feel like Todd has a guard that's up because he feels this loyalty to Peter as his friend and ex or former house husband of Atlanta. But anyways, the girls were talking and Cynthia was saying that she was afraid that their sexual chemistry wasn't going to be on point. And it was so funny that when they finally rejoined, you know, the ladies and the gentlemen, Cynthia actually told them what they were talking about. And Candy was like, you weren't supposed to say that to him. It's like, Cynthia, duh. Like, you don't pick up on social cues. What's wrong with you? But that was very funny to me that she said that. And then what really got me was when the camera was showing Will's hands, trying to show the thickness of his hands. That was so funny to me. All right, let's talk about this blind date situation. So Portia is so pressed for people to film with that she has to seek the help of matchmakers to find a date. But anyways, she said she's okay, you know, with the swirl or whatever, and she gets the download from the matchmaker because this is technically a blind date, and she finds out that he's going to be wearing jeans at this nice restaurant where she's pulling up in her Bentley or whatever kind of fancy luxury car that she has. And so that was already a turn off, so that wasn't good. And she goes into there and she's like, oh, I'm looking for somebody. And then she sees that it's this rather average looking white dude. I mean, he was kind of cute. He was okay looking. And she turns around immediately because she was expecting Brad Pitt or Leonardo DiCaprio. And it's like, no, he's just an average looking white dude. And we never heard what he did for a living. But they had an interesting conversation. First things first, Portia was not into it, but she was polite, but she was also lying about her mom staying with her so that she could only be there for 30 minutes. He thought that she was uptight and was like, well, we need to do a shot of something so you can loosen up, which he actually said to her face. So the whole situation was pretty awkward, but I didn't like that Portia was so dishonest about having to leave. I mean, she could have just said, you know, I'm not into this, peace out. But anyways, I probably would have done something similar. But it was weird enough. It wasn't super awkward, but it wasn't super great either. Yeah, she's gonna have to be more clear about what she wants from the matchmakers. Alright, so we're to the point where Sheree is talking to her life coach and Tyrone calls from jail and interrupts the session. And it's not like she can't not take the call because, you know, maybe if she misses the call, then Tyrone will start acting like Mendices acts towards Yandy when she don't be accepting his calls or whatever. Anyways, Sheree is explaining the timeline of their relationship. And I'm trying to figure out how in the world from jail did Tyrone get Sheree's phone number a year and a half ago to wish her a happy birthday. How did that happen? That's weird. Tyrone, it's weird. The whole situation is weird. But the reason that I had to come to you guys before this scene was over was because she said me and Tyrone are exclusive. The man is in jail. I bet that you guys are exclusive. That was very funny to me. But let's hear what Jack Daniels has to say on the matter. All right, let's talk about Sheree's delusional projects. Let's go back to back when Sheree was first on the show. There was She by Sheree that had a fashion show with no fashions. Y'all remember that? They were just drawings. So that didn't work out. That never came to anything. Then we have Chateau Sheree, which took half a decade to actually be realized, because there was some fraudulent activity going on. She was also no longer on the show and her income was very hampered. So that delusional project finally ended. And so what I find is that when people have delusional projects, they once that project is over with and completed, they need a new something to be delusional about. And I think that this relationship with Tyrone is that delusional project. Because, I mean, come on. Like, a dude that is in jail is somewhat of a fixer-upper. And that's why when Jack Daniels asked, is this a fantasy? I was like, you know what? He's onto something. Because there are women who have relationships with men who are in jail that get these men, or that, well, they begin relationships with these men, and because these men don't have much of anything or anybody, they become a support system for this man, and once he gets out, basically you have a built-in boyfriend. Now Sheree's situation is a little bit different because she actually knew Tyrone before he went into jail. But something about how delusional Sheree is, I mean, somebody being in jail and your whole intimate part of the relationship, as far as learning or feeling like he is your soulmate, is based on phone conversations and a few visits. Like, you don't know somebody until you like interact with them on a daily basis and like have to live with them. So I mean, Jack Daniels was asking some legitimate questions about whether or not this was a fantasy, or what happens if he doesn't get out of jail. Do you lose your soulmate? Who can be waiting around another 4 years for somebody to get out of jail? Not me. So Sheree is being delusional about something yet again, and this is the first time where I'm like, come on Sheree, come on. Now we have the next up on Real Housewives. It looks like Kenya and Sheree are going to get in bed together on this PSA about domestic violence. Alright, so Ricky Smiley and Portia. Y'all, I always thought Ricky Smiley was not a very attractive man. I never saw it for him on the attractive meter. But Ricky Smiley and Portia could be an interesting pair. And I would watch Ricky Smiley's show to see how that worked out. Apparently the Old Lady Gang isn't happy with how the Old Lady Gang restaurant is being run. They got to get some people in there that are honest. Now, we don't know if they're talking about Todd, which I'm pretty sure they're not. They seem to have a great relationship after they put him through the ringer and whatnot. And after he signed a prenup, they all seem to be pretty happy with him. But apparently they're having a personnel type of issue with finding good employees, which is the thing that all types of businesses go through. So I get that. We're rehashing yet again that Nene and Portia don't like each other. Who's over that? I'm over it. All right, and now it's time for the shoot for the domestic violence PSA, and Sheree is not on time, which is not unusual, but she says that she's been in an accident. Let's see what type of accident it is. What is it, a vehicle accident, or was it a hair and makeup accident? We don't know. But anyway it goes, this has been an interesting experiment, actually doing the reviews while I am watching the episode instead of doing it after. So thank you guys for watching. I don't know if I'll keep this format. I'll have to wait till I edit the video to see if it really comes together. But thank you guys for watching. Peace out, home slices.